All right, well, welcome everyone to Introduction to the Department of Energy Zero Energy Ready Homes Program. This course is approved for 1 hour in continuing education, GBCI, AIA, HSW, AIBD, NARI Green, Certified Green Professional, and something new we're working on with Passive House. It's also approved for the Certified Passive House Consultant designation and may be applicable to your state-based designed or contractor license. I'm your moderator. My name is Brett Little. I'm the executive director here at the Green Home Institute. The Green Home Institute is a nonprofit with a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and construction of the places we live. And we have a huge shout out to everyone who supports our work: Anderson Windows, Panasonic, our members, Green Raiders, volunteers, presenters, and our board of directors. We couldn't do it without you and many of you who are our donors to our sessions today. So I'm very excited to have Sam Rashkin joining us today. Sam is the Chief Architect, Building Technologies Office for the Department of Energy, and author of the book titled Retooling the U.S. Housing Industry: How It Got Here, Why It's Broken, and How to Fix It. Apart from his work, Sam has earned a national reputation for his work in leading the housing programs that have partnered with thousands of home builders and resulted in over 1 million certified high-performance homes. Mr. Rashkin was recently recognized for his contributions to the Sustainable Housing 2012 Hanley Award. So with that, Sam, thanks for that. Thanks for joining us, and take it away.
Hey, thanks so much, Brett, and so happy to be here and share the Zero Energy Ready Home program with you. And what I like most to do today is really to make green simple. So I'm going to load up my presentation now so that you can see it. And a couple key things: given this is a green audience, I will do some connections to how zero relates to green. It's a very big movement going on right now, the whole interest in zero building. So I will explain the fundamental difference and at least how DOE is approaching zero energy residential and bring that up as we move along. But first, I want to start off with a outline of what we're going to do. We're going to talk about how buyers are getting smarter, and smarter in a way that really affects what we do. And then I want to make zero simple. I'm going to go through the basic building blocks, how we message zero very simply with the marketing resources, how the program requirements are very simple, and then also how it's very simple to become a partner. So this is the outline for today, and let's start with smarter buyers. And what's really been a transformation in the marketplace has been this move from information asymmetry, caveat emptor, where the buyers know less than the sellers, to information parity, caveat venditor, where buyers know as much as sellers. And we're seeing more and more that there's so many different business models that are being substantially impacted by this transformation. And let's look at some of the things that buyers will know that will affect us. And one of the things buyers will know for sure is thermal defects. A good infrared diagnostic camera used to cost about $30,000 or more. Today you can get a good one for a few $100s, and there are ones even less that you can clip onto your smartphone and get reasonably good infrared images of homes. And that's significant because infrared images are really effective at communicating defects to a lay audience like a homeowner. I don't have to be an expert homeowner to look at this image and know something's going on that's wrong in my house. You know, in infrared images, light colors are heat and dark colors are cold, and on a cold day to see all that heat exploding out of the wall system is not a good thing. So that's one thing that the infrared camera can do it, but it's even a bigger thing of how it's going to spread. And it's just one example of one business. ESS is a company out of a group from MIT that's developed not just an advanced way of doing the camera diagnostics, but an advanced way of using computer technology to interpret the images from the camera. So what this company does is they strap a really good camera to the top of a RAV4. They can drive it through an entire community in 1 or 2 days and virtually map that community. So they're getting images like this home after home, and then they map the entire community. In this case, Cambridge, 2 nights, an entire diagnostic of all the buildings in that community. And of course, the red on a cold day is not good to see heat coming from the buildings, and the blue is better that the heat's being contained inside the building. So in this case, for a utility client, you'd have a great way of knowing where to focus efforts to reach out for retrofit work. But the key thing is the interest in this company to virtually do reports on homes across the entire country and communities across the entire country. So again, buyers will be so much smarter about thermal defects in homes. And not only that, as we do these images, buyers will also know good and bad windows. I show this image of a series of townhomes that can ask you to guess which one had the window retrofit, and it's pretty obvious which one did. In cold climates, windows are going to be the big thermal hole left in buildings. More about that later on. But right now, again, the power of a technology to change a building will not just be what we feel inside the building, visually what we see because of the information that consumers will have, like in this infrared camera picture. I'd also call your attention to a building like this. This is a LEED silver building, Aqua, in Chicago. It's a incredibly architecturally interesting building with all the undulating balcony slabs extending from inside to outside. But then a trained eye would know that that's an amazing amount of thermal expressway for heat to flow from inside to outside. And if we take an infrared image of this building at night, the exact same wall, we can almost realize that what we're building is really the world's largest radiator as opposed to a really efficient building. So even in the case that's a LEED silver building, you can see that in cold weather it's exploding heat across this entire facade. And so the details, a simple detail like thermal bridging, one critical detail that's wrong and the defects in terms of the design will become obvious to even the most lay observers of the building. And we won't just know about thermal defects, we'll know about moisture problems as well. When buildings have moisture problems in the wall assemblies, they show up as colder surfaces. So here's a house that's missing kick-out flashing where the roof gutter meets the wall. The water that drains along the wall surface is absorbed and leaves lots of opportunities for moisture damage. And I would submit that there's an incredibly high percentage of construction, residential construction, without kick-out flashing. Even worse is the percentage of construction without pan flashing at windows and doors. 100% of windows and doors leak, so if they leak and they leak at the corners, we know that there's a real high-risk opportunity for moisture damage if we don't have good water protection details. So the confluence of those two defects, and we know moisture problems as consumers, and that will affect the value of buildings and our willingness to buy these buildings as well. And the same diagnostic on the inside will show where these moisture problems are being realized internally, and we can see them as well there. So again, we know thermal defects and moisture defects. We're also going to know a lot about indoor air quality because we'll be smarter buyers because very simple applications for smartphones and computers will be able to tell us in an instant where we have issues with key contaminants that occur in our homes. Humidity, CO2, volatile organic compounds, particulates, those indicators will show up on our very simple applications that we get on our phone. Sensors are getting lower and lower cost, and all these applications are already appearing in the market, even bigger, more dashboard-type designs for showing the air quality in our homes with alerts and all sorts of other information to make consumers smarter. So we will be smarter about indoor air quality. We also be smarter about HVAC systems, and that's a big issue because, again, I would submit over 90% of HVAC systems are not installed per manufacturer specifications. And there's lots of reasons why that happens. That's a subject probably for another discussion. But what we need to know is that the marketplace is responding. So here's one company that makes a very low-cost package, $50 of hardware, 3 thermal sensors, 2 voltage sensors, 1 current sensor. And they basically put these on the equipment 15, 20 minutes and then hook you up through the internet to their monitoring devices. And then they can tell you basically if you have low or high charge, if you have failed start or run capacitor conditions, if you have reduced condenser evaporator flow for refrigerant, if you have abnormal operation, and if your performance is not meeting what you were promised when you bought the home or new equipment. So now, where we have a reality that systems aren't installed per manufacturer specifications, we will have a very much increased capacity for consumers to be smarter whether they got what they paid for. So lots of new challenges for remodelers and building owners, and the dashboards will appear here too that help consumers know when things are not as they should be. And all this will lead up to eventually where we start having more and more ability for consumers to get reviews of homes. Right now it's pretty limited, but you know, I know my wife and I won't go to a restaurant in a new area without pulling up Yelp or TripAdvisor and getting reviews and menus and all sorts of information that makes us smarter picking a restaurant. Well, that's just a $20 meal or a $30 meal. This is a $300,000, $400,000 purchase. You can be sure that the review options for what we can check will get higher and higher. And it's great when they're good reviews, but there are also going to be lots of bad reviews. And so we as builders have to be conscious that this is a smarter consumer that will know how our buyers feel about our product. And they'll also be smarter about the performance of homes. We have a lot of great labels in the marketplace, and these labels will be used at a higher and higher level. You know, we have the energy efficient label with Energy Star, the HERS rating, Zero Energy Ready, FIAS, green labels like LEED and NHB, Water Sense is a water label, air quality is Indoor Air Plus, resistance, disaster resistance is a fortified label. All these labels will grow in awareness. Consumers will know that there are simple triggers to make them smarter about what they're buying. Again, a much smarter consumer, and they'll see these labels as builders get more and more wise to posting them in a very aesthetic and obvious way when people come up to their homes, or at least the model homes for sure. So we will know more about performance. And one more thing about these smarter consumers is that they're willing to pay for a better experience, particularly if it's transformational. And consider some of the marketplace realities. You know, we pay 2 to 3x for a daily break that we think's better. So when we go to Starbucks or another boutique coffee shop, we're spending $4, $5, $6 for our coffee break versus you know, 1/3 or 1/2 the price at a discount convenience store. For the experience, we'll spend 2 or 3x for a better daily break. Similarly, for health, we're showing over and over again that we'll spend 2x or 3x for a better health experience. Before Chipotle kind of made the horrible mistake of not controlling quality of their product, they were easily 2x for fast food at their stores versus a conventional fast food restaurant. Of course, you can just look at the marketplace, spending $40 billion a year for organic food, $20 billion for bottled water. You know, the willingness to spend for health is everywhere we look in the marketplace. And when we do a great job of combining technology and design, it's 10x is an easy price increase that we see. So we're very happy with our cell phones. Out came the smartphone. We lined up around the block to spend 10x to go from a cell phone to a smartphone. A transformational experience has an incredibly high willingness to pay if we're smart about what we're getting. So just that as a kind of a beginning to our discussion, it's really important to recognize we're getting smarter buyers. So now let's look at the building blocks that simply explain what is a zero energy ready home. And what I'm going to just tee up here as a difference with green is, at least as DOE is promoting zero for residential buildings, is we're creating a very different approach from green, which is a point-based system to a system-based label. So there are going to be 6 complete systems that I will be talking about that you get with each and every home. And it's not, as opposed to a point system, you as a consumer will know you have those 6 complete systems, and that will be able to drive a lot of our brand promise and messaging that we then know we can bank on because we do have those complete systems. But first, again, talking about new realities, one of them is that performance has really changed in the marketplace. Even if we look at a minimum code home today and track the level of rigor in that minimum code home over time, we can see that the level of rigor has gone up very significantly with the 2009 and 2012 energy codes. And so already we're taking even the house that you have to build to meet the code to a very high level, and we're looking at codes that will be going higher and higher with many states around the country looking to do zero energy codes by 2020, 2025. We can look at California, which is the most obvious, but there's work in Massachusetts and Florida, New Mexico. Many states are looking at 2025 codes that are moving the rigor even higher. But right even at the juncture we are at today in terms of how efficient we make our homes, I will say we've hit a new risk reality that has to be addressed, and that drives a lot of the benefits for doing zero. So let me explain how that works. So we used to build like this, a much less insulated, much less rigorous window and air sealing. And along comes more rigorous codes. We have movement to much lower HERS index scores. And with that comes more insulation, better windows, and more air tightness. And that's what I call the advanced enclosure. And that advanced enclosure is a very significant risk driver if you have anything to do with new homes. And let's explain how that works. First, and the first building block for Zero Energy Ready homes is because of the advanced enclosure, we need a water protection system to manage our risk. And what happens is with better insulation and air sealing, we are now creating colder surface inside our cavity at the outside sheathing in cold weather and the inside drywall in the warm weather. And along with that colder surface, we have less drying potential. With all the additional insulation, the wall assemblies cannot dry nearly as fast as they could with little or no insulation. And so the challenge is now we have more wetting potential that has to be managed. It's not extra credit. It has to be managed to manage risk. And so water managed construction is an absolute necessity. It's water managed roofs that have complete flashing and extra membrane details to protect the roofs, walls and openings with the weather barriers and flashing details for those. The site and foundation have to be managed more carefully in terms of slopes and foundation details. And then inside the home where we have surfaces that can get wet, particularly in outside walls, we need to manage the materials and how we install those materials to keep water out of the wall assemblies. So water managed construction is now a complete system that has to be on every home. We don't believe it can be driven by points. It needs to be a complete checklist that has to be addressed. Okay, building block number 2 is managing the comfort risk with an optimized comfort system. And why is there a comfort risk? Well, with the advanced enclosure, we have very low loads, which is good. And with the advanced enclosure, we have much improved control of the mean radiant temperature, which is great. Mean radiant temperature dominates our perception of comfort. But what also comes along is that we have much reduced airflow since the loads are so much smaller, and much longer swing seasons since the sensible heat gain is much reduced. And when that happens, basically we have a challenge managing mixing throughout each room with less airflow, and we have a challenge managing the relative humidity when we don't start sensible cooling until later in the year, even though there's latent cooling needs earlier. So we maybe used to start air conditioning late April, early May. Now we don't do it to early June. And we have a whole month where we could still have high latent loads, and that means we have to have a humidity strategy for our comfort system. So now we need a quality installed, efficient HVAC system. It has to be right size, variable speed to manage our loads and also manage humidity capabilities. We need ducts and conditioned space for efficiency and performance. We need proper installation so the systems have mixing and balancing, and we need to make sure we're complete. So we need also, in many markets, we might need where it gets hot and humid, whole house dehumidification or equipment that knows how to effectively provide dehumidification when there's no sensible loads. And we also need pressure balancing because these homes have to make sure that room by room we can maintain comfort when there's a central return. So the optimized comfort system is not extra credit. We believe it's not points. It's a whole package that has to be in every home. Building block number 3 is a complete indoor air quality system to manage the risk of extra contaminants. So we have the advanced enclosure. We have less air exchange because it's tighter, and therefore we can accumulate more contaminants. So it's critical to have a full package. We reference the EPA Indoor Air Plus package that gives us complete source control throughout the house. It also dilutes any residual contaminants with a whole house ventilation system, and has high capture filtration at the return air filter that really effectively removes particulates in the airflow. So this is a complete system that should be in every house, even a code home built today. Building block number 4 is an optimized enclosure system, and this is really to manage the risk of obsolescence. We know that the code cycles every 3 years, and therefore we have a challenge for near-term obsolescence. In 3 or 4 years, I can have my most expensive purchase of a lifetime be virtually illegal to build because the next code cycle kicks in. So the way we manage that risk is we just build to the next code, whatever that code is on the books. And so for Zero Energy Ready Home, that's a 2012 or better IECC energy code. And so that will result in more air tightness and a better window and better insulation. So that is something we believe every consumer would want if they knew they had the choice to get the 2020 model house in 2016. Building block number 5 is to build on that optimized enclosure and put in efficient components throughout the house, recognizing that the heating, cooling, and hot water loads are now less than half our energy use in homes today that are high performance. So the challenge is to have these components minimize the energy use down to a really substantially lower level, and we do that with efficient equipment, lighting, appliances, and fans throughout the house. The same improved energy efficient equipment also usually perform better and last longer and are usually made of higher quality components that every consumer would want. And the last building block is to recognize that the cost of solar systems are dropping rapidly. The infrastructure to provide them is increasing and also reducing in cost their installation requirements. So every home would want to manage the risk of being able to add a solar system with minimal cost of disruption. And that's achieved with a solar-ready system. So we start with an optimized enclosure. Now we have the ultra-efficient HVAC and components to further minimize the energy requirements down to the lowest level. And we now have the challenge to go zero ready. We do that with solar ready construction. Simple details like giving the homeowner the structural calculations that verify the roof can handle the loads of the collectors without having to go back to an engineer at some point in the future at a very high cost. Having a place to run wiring through conduit from the attic to the electric box, place for balance of system components, an electric panel that has extra capacity, 1 or 2 circuit breakers needed for the extra installation of the solar system in the future. Very low, no-cost improvements, and now we can add the solar system with minimal disruption or cost penalty. So there we are. We have a zero energy spec based on 6 complete systems we believe every homeowner would want. They would want to go from an advanced to an optimized enclosure and get the 2020 model home today. They would want complete water protection, which is always a big concern of every homeowner. They want optimized comfort system, a complete indoor air quality system, efficient components, and solar-ready construction, which we call a house to the power of 0. And the Zero Energy Ready Home basically is a way for them, the consumer, to get this incredibly transformational experience by simply looking for a logo. That's a Zero Energy Ready Home program, and the definition is very simple as well. It's a high-performance home, so energy efficient, all or most annual energy consumption can be offset by renewable energy. Okay, so how do we message this powerful value proposition to consumers? And we've used 3 principles. One is we need a simple core that we always can use to tee up our message in a way that has a very profound value to our audience, our consumer. Then we have to earn their trust, and then we have to have clarity in our value message. There has to be no doubt that there's an absolute benefit that they can understand without any complication. So I'm going to show you how we do this very simply. So we start with the simple core of the Zero Energy Ready Home, and we thought, what is it really about Zero Energy Ready homes that's different? And yeah, they're more efficient. Yes, it's comfort and durability and health and all these benefits, but that's like most high-performance homes. And we thought what was critically different about Zero Energy Ready Home is that it was based on the best practice and technology recommendations from the best experts in the nation, working with the DOE Building America program. Then we further polled hundreds and hundreds of experts at a whole array of venues where we present to them and ask what would they prefer, a code home, an Energy Star, or a Zero Energy Ready home, and virtually all would choose a Zero Energy Ready home if it was side by side the same exact architectural option. And so we realized really our key core, what makes us different, is that Zero Energy Ready home is a home that a leading expert would choose for him or herself. Particularly for the largest purchase of a lifetime, it just got easier. It's like you had Uncle Max, who's the best car mechanic you knew in the world, and you were about to buy a car. You would go to him with confidence that he would give great guidance how to make a smart choice. Well, that's the case what the Zero Energy Ready home label means. It's a way with real confidence to know once you get the architecture and location you want and the floor plan, now you can get the performance that every leading expert would want for them or themselves. So how do we communicate this to a consumer? On our website, we have a very short video, and I'll run you through the storyboard that explains the message and how we give it. And I'll do it in a much more expedited way than the video would do, but just to give you a sense of the story and also tell you that it's our very first foray into this consumer message, and we already know we need to substantially keep improving upon that message. But I at least want to show you how once you have a core, everything can hang from that. So a home is the largest purchase of a lifetime, and often you just cannot make changes once you make that choice. It's too expensive to move again, and it can be prohibitively expensive to make changes to the construction once it's built. And that's why a home is an overwhelming purchase for so many consumers. They don't know, am I making the right choice? Well, now they know what leading experts would choose for the best performing home for themselves, and that home is a Zero Energy Ready home that has 7 must-have systems. It has a complete optimized thermal protection system that blankets their home in insulation that meets and exceeds future codes so the house is future ready. And it's whole house water protection, so you don't have to worry about one of the most significant homeowner concerns in the market today. You have a home that's moisture ready. And it has a high performance heating and cooling system that every expert would insist upon so a house is comfort ready. And it has high-efficient components throughout the house that work better, last better, are built better so that your home is tech-ready. And it also has a complete indoor air quality system that every expert would insist upon, knowing that homes today need to have a whole house approach to making their families breathe better. They want a house that's health-ready. And it has a solar-ready construction because leading experts know that simple details that hardly cost any amount of extra cost or no cost can make their house zero ready. And lastly, it has an enhanced quality assurance system because leading experts know that you want advanced diagnostics, checklists, certifications, so you know your home is performance ready. And most importantly, they know they can get all this completely improved homeowner experience often at lower true costs, because where there may be a higher monthly mortgage for these improvements and innovations, the utility bill is so much lower it can result in every month lower cost of ownership. And all you have to do is look for the Zero Energy Ready Home label, and here's where you can get all the information you need to find a builder and learn more about why this is the home of the future that you can get today. So that's our very short message. It all hangs on this is what leading experts would choose for their own homes. And so that's our power message. Now trust. Nearly 1 in 3 consumers indicate they don't trust home building real estate companies. That's the only research I can find in this industry, but my field experience shopping tens of thousands of homes worth of construction reveals it's probably more like 3 out of 4 consumers don't trust home builders and real estate companies. And it's not because these are bad people. It's because we only buy a home once every 7, 8, 9, or 10 years. We're not out there every day having experience with that transaction. We don't know what that transaction is. We're so fearful buying homes, and there's so many steps along the way where trust is always challenged. It's more a function of this is a very difficult purchase. And what's great with some products is, you know, the brands are powerful and consumers can just bank on them and know what they're getting and they're loyal to those brands. That's not us. The Zero Energy Ready Home provides trust by being an independent voice of authority versus a builder saying, trust me, I'm a zero builder or a high performance builder. Now you're a builder associated with the Department of Energy's guidelines for excellence, and it's a completely different way of presenting where you are within the housing industry. Here's an example. One builder, Newtown Builders, has since changed its name to Thrive Home Builders, is very prominently featuring Zero Energy Ready Home when they became the first builder at Stapleton in Denver to go 100% Zero Energy Ready Home with their homes. And now it wasn't just them saying they were doing something special. They were in a select group, 1% of builders in the country showing they can build to this level of excellence. Trust is also earned because you're an award-winning builder. Many of the builders in the program apply and receive recognition called the Housing Innovation Award, and then these builders I mentioned, Newtown became Thrive, will prominently feature their awards. So when you go to their homes, you have more trust because you know this is a builder who has been prominently recognized for national excellence. And that crystals for the grand award winner, but all the winners get the basic award, which like this features a logo very prominently. And when you have this trust, it's a tool to be leveraged. So Cobblestone Homes will then use their national award to provide more trust that they are a special builder when you go to their website. Trust is also earned because you also appear on the DOE website. So we have our Tour of Zero website as a component of the Zero Energy Ready Home website. And on the right, you have the video that we mentioned before that consumers can watch. And on the left, I can click on a map and take a tour in any location I want. So if I click on, in this case, let's say Arizona, which is a hot, dry climate region, I will get a list of homes in that region. So I can see home after home after home that is a home of the future today. And I can click on any one of those homes and then take a tour. Now the web page, of course, doesn't show you all this content at once, but this is basically what the full content looks like. But you'll begin with the tour of the home, which is what most people are interested in. You can go outside around the home, inside the home, and often there's some technical construction details further down for those that are interested in how the homes are constructed. And then you get to the information that speaks to the different experience. And it begins, of course, with the testimonials. There's a headline testimonial at the top. I was so impressed with this home when I bought it, and the full quote that's on the left below the builder's name. After the consumer testimonial, we know people want key information about the home, so we provide these statistics, information about the construction, square footage, bedrooms, number, the location, and the price, the HERS index score, and then the cost every month to own this house in terms of the utility bill. This home is particularly impressive. It's minus $94 a month, which will result in about $114,000 of saved utility bills over 30 years of mortgage. And again, highlight this is a different consumer experience. This is not your grandfather's car. This is a different type of experience. And then the list of innovations is provided under key features. We use terminology that's much more consumer-friendly. If you do click Read More, you'll get a four-page write-up about the house. That's for those that really want all the detail, but most will probably stop at the list of innovations. Often there are videos that can be clicked on, and if you click on More for the floor plan, whatever detailed floor plans we have will be provided so people can spend more time with those as well. And then lastly, if you like the builder and want to meet the builder, you click on that, and it takes you to our locator tool page for that builder. All the builder partners have a page on the locator tool, so you're being featured not just on your website, but on the DOE website as a Zero Energy Ready Home partner. Maybe I should trust this builder more. So it's another tool for earning trust. And lastly, for earning trust, we know a lot of builders have trouble either saying messages about performance because there's some concerns about what they can and can't say, or they just want a voice of authority to be more, have more impact. So we have drop-in messaging, 2 full pages of quotes that can be dropped into material. So here's Thrive Homes website. If I pop up the quote there, Zero Energy Ready Homes are the future of U.S. housing, and innovators like Thrive Home Builders are leading the way for the entire industry. Zero Energy Ready Homes can provide a vastly superior homeowner experience at lower homeownership cost, an experience all Americans would want in their next home. And there's a quote, in this case from me, sometimes it's DOE, but you get the idea here that if you want to earn trust, it's great when you have others saying you're really special. So that's enough about trust. The other thing we focused on, I mentioned, is clarity with contrast. And we have lots of things better about our homes, and they live, work, and last better. They have designer comfort and health ready. We mentioned low bills, technology, quality, enhanced durability. But what does that really mean to me if I'm a buyer? Those are interesting concepts, and many, many programs speak to them. So what am I really getting with a Zero Energy Ready home? And then I'm also working with an exclusive builder. I have this home of the future thing that's being talked about, and so it's telling me it's a smart purchase because it's lower cost of ownership. But what does that really mean, and how do I really add clarity so consumers can really understand these key value propositions? And so we actually apply a concept from a book called To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink. This is a quote from the book: clarity depends on contrast. We often understand something better when we see it in comparison with something else, much, much better than when we see it in isolation. And so we build on that concept substantially with how we message. Now that we have a good core, now that we help builders earn trust, how do we add real clarity about what each and every consumer gets? And this little fact sheet looks fairly innocuous at quick first glance, but it's anything but. It's all about clarity. And these bars are calibrated, the details of the calibrations in a document on our website that you can get and see all the quantification analysis that was done to calibrate these bars. But more importantly, for this short webinar, let me explain the clarity concept. Let's say I have a home buyer come in. I do my job as a salesperson. I try to understand what their interests are in buying a new home. I understand how much they're struggling in the current house with the kids' health and all the inhalers. And I take out a big, thick marker and I circle healthful environment. Now, there are 3 bars, and the green bar is the DOE Zero Energy Ready home. The blue bar is the Energy Star certified home built to its program specs, and the gray bar is an existing home. Those points of reference are provided because you wouldn't be buying or building a Zero Energy Ready home if you weren't first Energy Star. In fact, it's a prerequisite for our program. And also, we want to also make sure people understand the contrast between buying a new Zero Energy Ready home and an existing home. And so those are the 3 points of contrast that we provide. And what we're able to say in a message very simply is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm really sorry to hear that you struggle so much in your current house, but I feel great to tell you that each and every home that we build is a Zero Energy Ready home with a healthful environment. What that means is we have 100% of the recommendations by the leading experts for health in our nation, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. We have 100% of their recommendations for families to breathe better in their homes. In contrast, the Energy Star home has about half those recommendations, and an existing home hardly any. Wouldn't you agree, when you're buying such an important purchase for your family, you want to have all that protection for your children? In fact, we have the Indoor Air Plus label, which also verifies we have all the expert recommendations for health in new construction. Now I understand clarity. Do I want all, half, or hardly any of what experts say should be in every new home to help us breathe better? And I could do the same thing for comfort. Do you want all the recommendations by experts for living comfortably in your home? About a third less or hardly any. Do you want all the recommendations for leading experts for having the most efficient and lowest utility bills? Or do you want a third less or hardly any? Do you want all the recommendations for durability by experts, or a third less or hardly any? It's always pegged to the core concept. Every expert will want this amount. You only get this much with the other choice, or hardly any with an existing home. And so now we can make the clear difference. Why should I go the extra step? Building or buying a Zero Energy Ready home compared to an Energy Star certified home. And let's help the builders make that leap, have a very clear story to tell their buyers. Now, we follow through and do that in most of our communications. So if you look at our brochure for the Zero Energy Ready home, it has the same power bars for clarity with a little more detail. And I can circle the healthful environment on this tool just as well. And let's say I had a buyer that was a new buyer, and maybe the clarity I wanted to provide was about making a purchase from a builder they can trust, or getting a home that was visionary versus a home that was not visionary. I'd circle here and say, we're the future housing today. We're built to future codes. unlike an Energy Star home, is pegged to a current code. And we are one of a select group of builders, 1% of the nation, that are showing they can build to this level of excellence. And then all of our material, the fact sheet and brochures, can be customized with the builder's information, their logo and contact information on all of our builder tools. So that's very important as well. Now we have another sales tool that also helps builders provide clarity by having these very distinct lists of innovations in each and every home that also can back up what they're saying. And not only will I circle this on this brochure, here's a list of 40 innovations in each and every one of our homes that provide a helpful environment for you and your children. And we have a sales tool that helps every builder produce a customized list of the innovations with, again, the real estate at the top for their logo, name, and contact information. And it can do this for healthful environment, for comfort, for ultra-efficient, for advanced technology, for better quality, and enhanced durability. Okay, so you can see we really work hard on our messaging to be really effective now that, because we have those 6 complete systems. So how do we technically achieve performance that meets those 6 systems? So I'm going to talk about our program requirements. And the best way I can do that is give you some context, again, comparison for clarity. And so there are 5 or 6 main steps I want to speak to. There's a 2009 IECC code, 2012 IECC code, Energy Star version 3, version 3.1, Zero Energy Ready Home, and Passive House. And I use FIAS as a reference for Passive House. And if I start comparing them, first I compare HERS index scores. For 2009, you're about 85 to 90, step to 70 to 80 for 2012. Energy Star is about 65, 75, it drops 55, 65 for 3.1. Zero Ready is about 48 to 55, and Passive House 35 to 45. So you kind of see where you are in the HERS spectrum with all these different programs. Then they have, I want to compare the enclosures. So there's a 2009 enclosure for the 2009 code, 2012 for 2012 code. Energy Star version 3 is pegged to the 2009 enclosure. 3.1 is pegged to 2012. We're always pegged to whatever code is on the books. That's the next generation codes. So the latest codes that are on the books are 2012 and 2015. So those are applied depending on whether you're in the 2009 or 12 code location. And then Passive House is its own very ultra-efficient enclosure. Then you have independent verifications required for all the above code programs. Then water management is required for all the above code programs because Zero Energy Ready, because it's required in Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready requires Energy Star as a prerequisite, and FIAS requires Zero Energy Ready Home as a prerequisite, so those things just scale right across. Then the same thing with HVAC quality installations required in Energy Star, so it's required basically in Zero Energy and Passive House as well, along with whole house ventilation. And then ducts and conditioned space is required in Zero Ready, so it's also required in FIAS. EPA indoor air package, and ZERH, efficient components and hot water distribution, and solar ready. And so if I was going to show you the difference between code, Energy Star, and Zero Ready, these are the 6 key differences: the higher or lower HERS index score, the higher efficient enclosure, the ducts and conditioned space, the EPA indoor air package, the more efficient components, and solar ready. So let's focus on those to describe the program requirements. So first, because of the more advanced enclosure, we're more airtight. So here's Zero Energy Ready Home. We're about half of version 3 basically in ACH 50 requirements, 3 versus 6 for 1, 2, 2.5 versus 5, and 3 and 4, and so forth. So basically we're about half the airtightness. And you can look at Passive House basically at 0.6 ACH 50 as the gold standard for airtightness. Then you have the optimized enclosure in terms of insulation requirements. We're basically, as I said, pegged to 2012 IECC. 2015 is roughly the same. And I showed this chart not to go through any of the numbers, but most of it help you understand that the basic enclosure requirements are readily achievable by all mainstream builders. 13 walls in zones 1 and 2, 20 walls in 3 and 4, and 20 plus 5 or 13 plus 10 and 6 and colder, give you a sense that these are readily achievable construction. Same thing with attics from 30 to 49. So without going through the chart, you can see basically, I think builders are easily able to build to these enclosure requirements already on the books. And I want to also stress how important fixing all the thermal holes are. It's such a big deal that we get rid of thermal holes. So here I am in a house, let's say with a 1,000 square foot attic, and let's say I do have the R38 attic. So my U value is 0.06, and I'm going to add a drop-down stair in that attic. And that's about R1. The U value is reciprocal, is the same one as well. And it only is about 10 square feet of the 1,000 square foot attic interface. So it's 1% of the area. And the question would be, what impact does it have for a 1% hole in the overall R value for the attic? So I'll run you through quick calculations. The equation, the average U value is U value for area 1 times area 1, U value for area 2 times area 2, and so forth, divided by the total area. So we have the 0.026 for the main R38 attic and 1 for the drop-down stair times the relative areas, and we wind up with 0.036 U value for the combined with the hole, and that's about R28. So the 1% hole winds up with a 27% loss in R value, simply running the math. Thermal holes are a big deal. They allow a lot of flow through a very confined, smaller space to go at a higher rate of flow, and they result in a very significant impact on the performance of an enclosure. Now, what is the difference in how much thermal flow is happening is a different equation. If we assume the attic, let's say, is 20 degrees and the house is 70, 50 degree difference, heat flow is U times area times delta T. We put in the numbers at 1316 BTU per hour without the hole, 1786 with the hole, using the different U values for with and without the hole. And so we have 33% greater heat flow just due to a 1% hole. So this is, again, a big deal to get rid of thermal holes. And what is one of the biggest thermal holes in homes in cold climates? It's the window. Because we're doing such an improved job in how we insulate walls, but we're still using Energy Star windows. So if I take one example, this is a chart I filled out with crunching the numbers for a house where the window is 15% of the wall area, and we're assuming a cold climate, and if I have a 6-inch R18 wall versus a 13-inch R39 wall, and I have an Energy Star window that's 0.3 U value, already I see, in terms of the bang for my buck, I'm only getting about a 33% improvement for going from a 6 to a 13-inch wall. I'm going from R11 to R15. Not a very big return on investment. And more importantly, I can stick with a 6-inch wall, go to R7 window, and virtually get the same performance as the Energy Star window with a 13-inch wall. So if you looked at the cost comparison, I would submit that's probably a dramatically lower cost to do that. And I can go to a R60 wall, which is like a 20-inch wall, and I'm only getting an increase from R11 for the 6-inch wall to R17, and I'm getting a 50% increase for going from a 6 to a 20-inch wall, and I can get a good chunk of the way there with the R7 window and almost all the way there with the new windows coming out that are R10. Getting to really good windows is the most significant technology challenge I would submit for high-performance buildings. We need the R7, R10 window at better and better prices on the marketplace to truly solve the enclosure, because otherwise a thermal hole is undermining all the good work we're doing with the walls. And just take a look at the infrared image. Our friend, the infrared camera, again, will always point out this significant thermal hole. Okay, enough about the enclosure. What about ducts and conditioned space? Often we find that it's not a challenge, but some markets, they're very much focused on that strategy for how they build, and they put the ducts in the attic. So we need to show that there are lots of choices how they can get the ducts in conditioned space. And one of it is to have drop ceilings and a compact duct configuration. So you can have a drop ceiling in a hallway and then run the short stubs to the bedrooms to provide the comfort. Another way is to do a pop-up in the trusses and have a space that's sealed and lined with an air barrier that's a top hat configuration in effect for your ducts, still inside the conditioned space. Alternately, you can just insulate the slope, have an unvented attic, make sure to have a supply to condition that space so you don't get too much humidity building up in that space. And now the ducts can be up there and they're effectively in a conditioned space. Alternately, you can run the ducts in an interstitial space between floors, particularly now as the ducts get smaller and smaller for the very reduced loads. And even there are other solutions like high-velocity duct systems that let the ducts get even smaller and easier to fit in between floors. And then we can also have unconditioned, unvented crawl spaces in basements and run our ducts there. And lastly, we can just do a normal configuration of the ducts in the attic if we bury them in insulation, and we also encapsulate them in markets where the condensation can occur in the ducts, even with the RE insulation around them. So lots of choices in how we can meet the ducts and conditioned space requirement. Moving on to health, again, I call it a health imperative. We are no longer extra credit, even with code homes. The air inside our home has 2 to 5 times greater pollutants than outdoors, up to 100 times greater, and we're spending 90% of our time indoors, probably 66% of our time inside our homes. So getting that right's essential. The statistics bear it out. 1 in 10 children in the U.S. suffer from asthma. So what are we doing is building on the good work that Energy Star starts. So it gives us a better envelope, particularly air sealing, keeping out lots of contaminants. The HVAC system has got ventilation built in. We do have the moisture control layers with the water management system, and we have more efficient combustion equipment that's direct or power vented. So it's a good start. But there's a lot of additional measures from Indoor Air Plus that we add on top of Energy Star for controlling radon, pests, using materials that don't have chemical content in them, further reducing risk for carbon monoxide in homes, further improving HVAC requirements so they better control moisture, and having even more additional details to control moisture in the wall assemblies. And this is what we call a comprehensive indoor air quality protection. And it's based on the leading experts, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Indoor Air Plus program. Effectively, you wind up with a 3-pronged strategy: source control to keep moisture, radon chemicals, combustion byproducts, and biological contaminants under control. Dilution and filtration happen with the HVAC quality installation, and you get that with whole house ventilation, a higher MERV filter, and whole house dehumidification in hot, humid climates. Okay, moving on to the energy efficient components. Very simply, we peg requirements to Energy Star for appliances, fans, lighting, and then we also require efficient hot water distribution from the WaterSense program. And I'll spend a little more time on that because that's one of the requirements that gets the most questions for our program. But first, a word about the efficient water heating requirement. You can use any water heater you want, but if you're not Energy Star water heater, you'll have to make up the lost efficiency from other measures because the performance calculations will assume this level of efficiency for your water heaters. So the performance calculations pegged to Energy Star, and these are the general efficiency levels for Energy Star water heating, about 0.67 for gas, 0.77 if it's greater than 55 gallons. Electric systems have to be essentially heat pump water heater with an energy factor of 2.0, and heating oil systems can have an energy factor of 0.6. And we also have energy efficient components for space conditioning, also that are not requirements, but that will be assumed in the performance calculation. Anything less than this is more efficiency you have to make up in Enclosure or other places where you can grab energy efficient performance points. And so the performance levels, again, are readily available in the marketplace: 90 to 94% efficient heating equipment, furnaces in mixed and cold climates, 15 to 18 SEER in mixed and hot climates, and they, again, fairly efficient heat pumps as well. But again, I mentioned the efficient hot water distribution is a one component requirement that gets the most questions. So let me just spend a little more time with this. The three options, one's a core plumbing layout, sometimes referred to as a wet wall, where your fixtures are so close to the source of the hot water that there's very little waste or wait time. Another is a manifold system where there's a home run of, from a manifold of pipe to each fixture. So again, there's minimal waiting time and waste. And the third's a recirculation system where you run a structured plumbing loop throughout the house and have a pump that can basically, on demand, circulate water. And it'll either be a demand pump that you use with a switch or a sensor control, or it'll be an adaptive scheduling pump that's built into, let's say, instantaneous water heater systems that learns your demand profile and provides water on demand based on how you use hot water. So here's a core plumbing layout, just as an example. You have the laundry room with a hot water heater right there, and there, that wet wall right against that. And all these plumbing fixtures are basically right against that wet wall, except for that one lavatory, which is also within shooting distance and would probably meet the requirements for not wasting more than half a gallon of water once you turn on the hot water spigot. The other way to do it is with the manifold system. Again, there's a home run from a manifold that has to be within 10 feet of the water heater, and with a half-inch line, you can probably go up to 30 feet and still meet the program requirements. With a 3/8 line, you can go past 30 feet. So depending on how you choose to meet that requirement. And here's the demand pumping system. Again, it's a structured plumbing loop with a dedicated return to the water heater. So there's the sensors and controls. There's a dedicated return. There's the pump near the water heater. And when we turn on a switch, or there's a sensor that knows we're in the room, it operates the pump, and virtually every fixture will have water. And then when I turn on the fixture, there'll be hardly any wait time or waste. And the last system I mentioned is an adaptive scheduling pump. This is one instantaneous water heater sketch that shows the circulation pump in the water heater that learns your demand and circulates water on that demand. The last program requirement is solar-ready construction, but it's geographically required and encouraged in all other locations. Here are the geographic regions where it's required. These are locations in the country that get 5 kilowatt hours per square meter per day of sunlight or more, and everywhere else it's highly encouraged to meet the program requirements. Essentially what you do for solar-ready construction is you have, again, the documentation that the maximum allowable dead load and live load ratings of the existing roof meet those required to add on the collectors in the future, and you have that documented and signed by an engineer. You give the homeowner also a place to run wiring with a 1-inch conduit going from the attic to the electric box. You provide a dedicated area for the inverter and balance of system components, conduit connected to the electric box to run from the balance of system area, and then circuit breakers in the box so that you don't have to change your box when you put solar on in the future. Very, very low cost or no cost details that can make your house ready for solar with hardly any disruption or cost penalty. So let's graph the spec, let's show the spec graphically to make sure you understand, again, what we're doing very simply with Zero Energy Ready Home. We're taking a minimum code building, we're going to knock off at least half the energy use, sometimes 60 or 70% in some cases, but the program, you knock off generally about half the energy use, and you do that with optimized, efficient enclosure and components. But to manage the risk, now we also add the performance requirements on for moisture protection, comfort, system properly installed, comprehensive indoor air quality, and solar-ready construction. And you are Zero Energy Ready. And in the future, you can always add renewable systems either on-site, you can be part of a district system, or even buy offsets to take your carbon footprint down to zero. We always like to still use the word ready because there's so many factors that can lead to a non-zero utility bill experience, which most homeowners would expect. It could be they have more occupants than are planned for that home. It could be a severe weather year. It could be so many different equipment components that use lots of energy are added, things like swimming pools and hot tubs, gaming machines. Who knows what gets thrown into the house? That's really out of control of the builder. And even the utility could add on a number of service charge requirements to buy renewable power from the home that can add on costs that lead to a non-zero experience. So I think the word ready is a very powerful word to manage expectations for homeowners. And essentially, the last part that leaves us with is how do we become a partner and work with this program? And this will be just a few more slides to wrap up. The first thing is just to register online at the Zero Energy Ready Home website. If you go to any of your favorite search engines, type in Zero Energy Ready Home, it'll be the very first item listed. Go to the program requirements, review the guidelines, review the partnership agreement, and then fill out a very simple form that take a minute or less, maybe a couple of minutes. You will have some choices for some extra credit special recognition if you do 100% Zero Energy Ready homes. If you also do the WaterSense label, if you do disaster resistance with the fortified home label, and if you want to indicate that you're meeting Zero Energy Ready home quality management recommendations for helping to ensure consistent quality, there's a quality management icon as well. Then you'll have certain responsibilities. One is to take an orientation training course. It's about 45 minutes. It's available online. Much of what I'm doing here right now with you would qualify as the orientation training. The other requirement as a partner is to provide a certificate that for each home that meets the Zero Energy Ready Home program. That will be printed out straight from your HERS software. Note that in the near future we expect to use HERS registry at ResNet as our source of certified homes, so this requirement may be relaxed in the future. You have to adhere to the brand identity guidelines. You're only allowed to use the Zero Energy Ready home name and logo in homes that do meet and are certified to the program requirements. And then you want to build and verify at least one home per year. Now, if you don't, we'll simply make you inactive, and at such time as you begin certifying again, you become active automatically. But to review all the terms and disclaimers, I recommend everyone go to the website and review the partner guidelines and information there. The experience that we are confident that we'll bring to each and every builder who joins the program is, one, give them a risk management strategy. Today's homes are subject to greater risks that we mentioned. This package of 6 complete systems will help you manage that risk. Also, we think this is that transformative experience that smarter home buyer is going to be looking for more and more. So that greater buyer satisfaction is right there for you. And then the market differentiation and trust that comes from that government-backed label is so important. And you'll be ready for the forthcoming codes. All builders will have to get there. To the degree that you pass the learning curve lessons early, achieve that level of performance, and make it part of your business, you're ready for the future, and you'll be ready for smarter buyers. So that's my presentation today, how to make zero simple. I appreciate sometimes I'm like drinking through a fire hose, but I do want to get you through the entire package of what the program's about in about an hour. And if there are any questions, Brett, I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, great, Sam. We got some time for questions, so please drop them in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and just real quick, we'll get right back to your slide there, Sam. But for those of you listening online and you're looking for your continuing ed, check your email or spam folder or your email for certificates. Take the survey, and then actually in this case, to get your GBCI number, you're going to need to email us back. For those of you watching on demand, so none of you, I'm not talking to any of you right now, but the recording, who are joining us later, complete the 10-question quiz and get a 70% passing rate in order to get your certificate. So, Sam, I'll pass it right back to you so we can get back to your contact slide there. And the first question...
Can you say a word about that contact slide, Brett?
Yeah, if you want to put your contact information slide back up, that way everybody can have it.
I'll have it up.
Yep. Yeah, you'll need to reshare your screen, so I had to close it out.
So key word about the contact information here. There's so much good information on this website that I'd like to highlight for you. One is this presentation. Two would be an amazing amount of resource materials that are great for marketing Zero. Three is a list of about 20 different webinars that are recorded from some of the best experts we can get that cover in much higher level detail. A lot of the material I cover very quickly. So advanced water systems, Gary Klein, disaster resistance construction, Fred Malik from the Institute for Business and Home Safety. So there's lots of great detailed webinars that you can get as well. If you're a partner, you'll have access to the tools that can be customized, including the fact sheets, the marketing brochure. Also, the tour of Zero's on the website. I encourage everyone to go take and visit the tour, look at the homes and how the tour operates, and also see the full video that we showed you. So that's just a hint of some of the extensive amount of information that's on that website.
Great, thanks, Sam. So the first question we got in is why not just use the passive house standard? And it says, and just to clarify, I suppose, if I understand right, the Zero Energy Ready is a required component of that. But I guess, yeah, the question is, why not just use the passive house standard?
There are two excellent options for builders that want to go above Energy Star. One is Zero Energy Ready Home, one's Passive House, but they're extremely different. Passive House is an incredibly rigorous set of requirements. They've just issued a new set of guidelines that will help be more responsive to some of the more mild climate regions in the country. But it's not for every builder to get to 0.6 ACH 50. It's not for every builder to build R40 walls and R90 attics. And the requirements in Passive House are superbly ultimate performance requirements, but they're incredibly way above even what Zero Energy Ready Home does. We went and looked at what our experts said was the most cost-effective level, and beyond that level, you start getting close to the point where the additional investment in efficiency starts to be more expensive than to invest in renewable systems like a solar electric system. So the difference is that we give builders a stepping stone to get to Passive House and consumers a stepping stone to get to Passive House. If you're not ready to do their exceptional level of requirements, ours are what the best experts of the Building America program say should be in homes. Passive House takes it the next step. Now, to be sure, there's some passive builders that will say that they're doing their homes at no extra cost, but it gets very difficult to do an apples and apples comparison to truly understand all the differences. So I encourage everyone to look at both specs. Like I said, they're both excellent program choices that you have. But if we required Passive House, we believe we would only be relevant to an incredibly much smaller part of the population that want to build or own a home that's at the next level. So Passive House is there as a penultimate choice.
Great. And as we're waiting for some more questions, I've got a few here. So some folks, a very small percent of the market, are now starting to look at actual zero energy, or I forget I guess they've decided on a real name for that now, zero net carbon. What do you recommend to them if they actually want to follow and certify and market to a real, like a program that would communicate that the house actually is zero energy?
Well, the only national program in Zero I know about is the DOE Zero Energy Ready Home program. I go crazy, by the way, with the word net. I don't know why we throw in a word net to clarify the zero is really something that over a course of a year is what happens. If we had the same requirements for a green program, we would say shades of green. We wouldn't say green. That wouldn't be allowed. It'd have to be shaded green, because green is really can be gold, silver, bronze, platinum. So really, there is no such thing as green. It's a shade of green. And that's what they're doing with zero when they put the word net either in front of it or in front of energy, zero net energy or net zero energy. And it just uses up a horrible amount of real estate that I don't want to give up. Look at that logo on the screen. Where would I put the word net in that logo? So first thing is the word net drives me crazy, but I am so respectful of the importance of Ready to manage the limitations, litigation risk for builders and to manage expectations for consumers. Zero Ready is an incredibly important way to phrase what we're doing. But that aside, the zero net carbon doesn't have a spec. It's part of where the movement, I believe that Ed Mosry is doing, wants to go for their 80 by 50 challenge, which is trying to encourage cities to reduce their total energy consumption for all sectors 80% by 2050. And in terms of a metric, they realize carbon is what they want to do. And so for those kinds of programs, that sounds fine. But for what we're doing, this is the only building metric for zero I know that's out there. And I believe our specification is grounded in these critical systems approach as opposed to the more conceptual ways that the net zero carbon concepts are out there. So.
Great, thanks. For those who maybe are also in the multifamily, mixed use, and commercial sector, any recommendations for them to be able to build, design, and market to a Zero Energy Ready type label?
Yes. First of all, we're completely aligned with Energy Star for homes. So we have the same policy where we allow the Zero Energy Ready home label to be used on multifamily housing 5 stories or less, and with all the same terminology and definitions that they have. So that's probably like 90 or 85% of all multifamily housing is in that category. So most multifamily can use the Zero Energy Ready home and the Energy Star labels. There's various exemptions for some of the hot water requirements we mentioned, and there's some exemptions for also how we do certain details and testing, the air leakage. All those details are within the program requirements. I encourage people to look at those. If you're going to basically a high-rise multifamily or higher than 5 stories, I think the best thing is stick with the green programs or use the Energy Star multifamily label that's out there. But for now, with the bandwidth we have, we are just limited to 5 stories or less. But that still covers, like I said, the lion's share of multifamily construction that's happening each year.
And there's nothing out there for like small commercial buildings, like 1 or 2 story?
It's coming. It's coming. I know that Zero Energy buildings in commercial is probably going to be out there in the very near term.
What about renovations, rehabs, remodels? Can they get involved in this?
We have a number within our program that have earned the label, but admittedly you have to do almost a gut rehab to be able to retrofit a lot of the details you need. There's some things you can't get to that we accept, certain other kinds of verification that the requirements are met under the slab. Things can be verified some other way. But essentially, without a doubt, like the lion's share homes going into the Zero Energy Ready home label are going to be new. But I would still submit that you can use the program guidelines as a way to inform how we retrofit existing homes. The requirements for how we do good enclosures, the right windows for how we do good air sealing details, the requirements for the right HVAC systems and how they're installed, the requirements for indoor air quality, they all apply to retrofit as well. So if you cannot reach the label, that shouldn't stop you from following the program requirements and letting that help be your reference for getting a really great deep energy retrofit. You cannot just improve the energy efficiency of these homes and not also manage your water management risk, your health risk, your comfort risk. All those have to be just as much addressed in a deep retrofit as they do in new construction.
I noticed that you had referenced a HERS rating of somewhere between 48 and 55. Is this an actual requirement or just sort of a ideal target to certify?
First, I'll put up the numbers once again because they're really interesting to compare. Give me a second on this. Okay, I lost them. Essentially, the numbers are a target to make sure that all the homes meet a minimum performance threshold. But what we do, unlike the code programs, which have a fixed HERS number, we have a variable number. So there's no target number for us. For Zero Energy Ready Home and for Energy Star, the way we set them up from the get-go was that you had a prescriptive list of improvements, and what the software would do is the HERS software will take your home and you put it in just like you would on a normal HERS rating, but once you toggle Zero Energy Ready Home or Energy Star, the software will create a twin home. And in the Zero Energy Ready Home case, it'll put all the prescriptive requirements that we have for insulation, for air sealing, for HVAC equipment and so forth, for water heater efficiency. All those go into the twin home. The only thing that's different from the twin home, from the home that you're putting in that you're rating, is it will reconfigure the windows so they're equally distributed in all 4 orientations. And then it'll run 2 scores, one for the home, just like you would normally get running your HERS rating, but it'll create a second score for the twin home with the prescriptive requirements. If you meet or exceed those requirements, you meet the program's performance threshold. Now, the key thing to understand is that we have a variable score because it doesn't work to have a single score. Some climate zones that are colder require a lower score than hotter climates just by how the software algorithms work in the HERS rating. Bigger homes get much lower scores than smaller homes. So if I did a very small apartment or I did a very small single-family home, I would have to make up all sorts of extra requirements more than I would if I was building a 10,000 square foot house. So we don't want to reward size the way the HERS index score currently does unintentionally. So with the approach we have, whatever score you get for that house based on prescriptive requirements, it will float up and down, and we don't care that it's not fixed. I'm going to be interested to watch what happens in code programs that have a fixed HERS index score, because it's very, very difficult the variation can be pretty large among all the things that are variables. So anyway, we use a HERS index. We use a HERS index score to make sure that every single home passes a performance threshold test, and then we have prescriptive requirements to make sure the things that we think must be done based on leading experts are included. The enclosure, the windows, the equipment, the ducts in the conditioned space, things of that nature.
So a question came up, and I think it's a great segue into this resource and tool that Building America Solutions Center provides. The question, like we have many designers on our sessions, how can they implement in their designs to get the builder ready for Zero Energy Ready? And I've always felt like this tool right here, if everyone can see my screen, both for Energy Star, for Zero Energy Ready, and Indoor Air Plus, was a fantastic tool to drill down and look a little bit deeper into some of the requirements, as well as get CAD and design files. Sam, do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think it's a great tool for that?
Oh, thanks for mentioning this. The Building America Solutions Center is like your new best friend if you have anything to do with high-performance buildings. The most useful interface is the one you're in right now, which is you can go to checklist for Energy Star, Zero Energy Ready Home, Air Plus, and WaterSense is coming up shortly. You just pull up the checklist, whittle down the checklist to the exact item of interest you have, and up will come a detailed guide that has 9 tabs. The first tab will give you the scope of work, so you can drop that into a construction specification or a construction document. The second tab will tell you about how you ensure success, in terms of related measures and what needs to be understood. The third tab will tell you about climate factors that need to be recognized that will change the requirements. Fourth tab will give you training information, particularly good and bad images in terms of how it's installed, sometimes videos and sometimes presentations. The next tab will give you CAD drawings where they're available. The next tab will give you code compliance and other program requirements that specify this measure with direct links to them. Then there's information on the how to get more precedents and case studies, and it'll connect you to case studies using those measures. And the last new tab is called Sales. It'll give you an actual summary page for people that sell your homes that has a translator of that technical term into a experience-based term. So a ventilation system, let's say, becomes a fresh air system. So we go from the technical function of ventilation to the experience of fresh air. And then it'll give you a quick description that a salesperson would mostly need versus a much more detailed description we have in our Solution Center. And then it will give you alternate terms for that measure, and then it'll give you a script to give your salespeople. So there are the tabs across the top that I was just referencing. And you can see how it just takes you to all this information. The training tab, you click next, has the pictures, the videos, and it has all the other information. CAD will be, if you have CAD drawings, compliance is the links to the standards and code references. More is more information, case studies, and unreferenced documents. And the sales tab is the one I mentioned last, is the, in this case, aligned air barriers becomes a draft barrier. You have a short technical description. You have alternate terms, air containment barrier, energy saving air barrier, moisture control air barrier. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the script for the salespeople that basically, whole house draft barriers block airflow that can be undermine the thermal protection with a complete high performance insulation, ... But the key thing is, salespeople need a lot less content. And compare this, by the way, go back up to the tabs if you would, Brett. And if you click on description tab, you'll see how much more information is provided here for the technical person. There's much more description, images, pictures. So you realize at your fingertips you have the access to the most extensive information in high-performance homes for virtually over 230 different guides that have been prepared on everything involved in high-performance homes. And what's so significant about this is often we go to a document, we don't know if it's the latest document and I should worry about something new coming out that supersedes it. This is a living document. It's not fixed content. It's a database. So at any time our technical teams in Building America, our research laboratories, our user base gives us content that's updated, we simply go into the database, pull out the old that's out of date, and put in the new that's updated. So it means whenever you go to this resource, you're getting something that's continually updated, and you'll see the dates for when things are provided listed right below the content as well. So the Building America Solution Center is an incredible resource. And it was designed to help apply proven innovations. So it's not where you go if I want to design a home, like you go to HER software for that, or you go to BOPT is a great software package DOE has for free. But you can basically do software to figure out what to do, and you go to the Building America Solution Center for how to apply it. Or let's say you want precedence, you're going to go to a code official, or you're going to go to a builder and you want to show there's a dozen other homes using this measure, or you want to go to a code official. You can actually provide something called a code brief on over 25 different innovations that may be difficult for you to get through a code approval process. There's a whole code brief to help the code official understand and approve that measure much more easily. So learn to use the Building America Solution Center. It's an amazing resource.
Great, Sam. Well, I really appreciate your time for joining us here today, and thanks to the Department of Energy for this great resource, these great tools. Thanks for all of you for joining us live. If you want to catch this session again, we will have it up on our YouTube channel, and I believe, Sam, where again can people go to find another version of this recording and other resources?
Again, just go to your favorite search engine, type Zero Energy Ready Home. There'll be 4 big tabs for you: resources, Tour Zero, partner, and join, or the partner and forget the 4th tab. But click the resources tab, and you can essentially, the tour tab. Go to the resources tab, and among the resources listed will be the list of webinars, and there's so many good webinars that will help you out.
Very good. Well, thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Take care.